Hi, this is Nick Mason of Pink Floyd, and you're watching Smoke TV.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm the chief photographer for Smoke magazine. I'm here with Nick Mason, the drummer of Pink Floyd. He's a former student at the University of Westminster, which was formerly known as the Regent St Polytechnic. Let's ask him some questions.
Architecture.
And why did you choose it?
I think partly because I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, but the great thing with architecture is it's such a good general training. Because I wanted to work in London, and it was really the sort of schools that I'd looked at and thought looked interesting with the AA and Regent St Poly, and they offered me a place, so that was it. Yeah, no, architecture is absolutely full of useful information because it's part, it's arts and sciences. So there's a certain amount of structures, certain amount of painting and so on. Not only do I think we learn quite a lot about useful stuff, but it put us in touch with people who've done the same sort of training. Mark Fisher, Jonathan Park, all the people that did our stage designs were architecturally trained. So were most of our lighting designers. Arthur Max, who is now, he works for Ridley Scott. Yeah, absolutely. Roger Waters and Richard Wright were also in my year, and that's how we met and how the band originally came together. My year master at the time, when I left, was called Joe Mayo, and he was wonderful because what happened was that I'd done 3 years and I've got a certificate, and so I'd done my 4th year in an office and started on my 5th. And I was really worried about stopping because it was impossible to play with the band and hold down and be a student, because I could get my friends to sign me in, but there was a point at which people actually did notice I wasn't there at all. And Joe was fantastic because I went to him and talked about it, and he said, look, what he actually said was take a gap year, but gap years hadn't really been invented. But he said, it's fine, we'll have you back in a year's time. So it was really easy to leave, but it was, my parents weren't then worried about it and throwing my career away and so on. And what was fantastic was I saw him about 3 years ago because I'd written a book about the band, and I think his daughter had discovered this and that he was mentioned in it. And so he came to Goodwood for one of the car events there, because he was always quite a car enthusiast. And we sat and talked for quite a while. It was a very good moment for me. Well, I was probably more successful as a drummer than I would have been as an architect. Having said that, it was a very interesting period. The other tutors I had, part-time tutors, were Richard Rogers and Norman Foster in particular. And obviously they seem to have made a success of architecture, as far as I can tell. And I have to mention here that the other guy who was a lecturer was a guy called Mike Leonard, and he used to part-time lecture at Poly and part at Hornsey College of Art, and he was absolutely instrumental in the band getting going, because we ended up supplying music, the soundtrack for Hornsey, when they were doing a light and sound workshop. So if it hadn't been for Mike, I think we probably would never have actually got off the ground. Actually, they were very cool, I have to say, yeah, because as I say, I was halfway through the course anyway, and there's a point of, it's a bit like, what's it a bit like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? There's a point at which you get the paperwork, and you keep the paperwork whatever happens, so you can actually go on and finish the course further down the line. So they knew that, and also what was happening with the band was sort of interesting, and it was we were getting coverage in the sort of quality newspapers rather than the News of the World. No, it was fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think I got all the things that you're sort of meant to get from sort of post-school education, as in you meet lots of interesting people. I ended up meeting the people I then went on to work with for the next 40 years. But there were a lot of other people who were actually in and out of the band from the Poly at the time, a couple of whom I'm still in touch with. So it was, it was also, now when I'm talking about the sort of early days of the band, I say it was a sort of government-funded initiative because we all had grants. And so when the grant came through, the first thing you did was you bought a couple of books and then went down the Charing Cross Road. And remember, Roger's grant came in and we bought a bass guitar and a carry. There is a student world that is really exciting. It's that point at which you leave home. You leave school, you tend to leave home. And there's an awful lot going on. I remember, I don't know whether they still have Rag Week, but we're talking a long time ago. But so there was a whole sort of student life, and it was a big. There were 40 of us in that first year, probably more in the first year, and then people dropped out or sort of fell back over a period of time. Not really. Very few, but of course the problem actually is rock and roll is not conducive to maintaining relationships. The problem is so much time you're travelling, so much time you're away, so you're always sort of trying to make arrangements to meet up, and then you never do, and after 3 or 4 of those people get a bit pissed off basically and think, oh, he's being grand, doesn't want to see us anymore, he's hanging out with Elvis. As I say, it had a big impact, but in different ways. The main thing was the fact that 3 of us met there. But the second thing was that it gave us the opportunity to develop. We used to rehearse in the common room down in the basement. And there were the influences on us, as I say, Mike Leonard in particular. But I think that from my experience of what I've seen since, that whole business of being in a band or playing music being a student is about the easiest way of doing it, because trying to hold down any sort of regular job and rehearse and actually look for work and so on is really tough, really tough. My favourite piece of music advice was Noel Redding, the bass player with Jimi Hendrix. He said, study law and buy a gun. I think in this day and age, the biggest problem is that you have to be, the skill set you need is, you need to be a good writer, a good player, but you also need to be an entrepreneur. You need to be able to start thinking about other ways of selling your music, because even if you can get the record deal, that may not be enough. The record companies are not really necessarily the people who can really make the difference in the industry. But it's a big period of transition, I think, at the moment, and I think the more you can do yourself, the easier it'll be.